This is Making Waves, a series of podcasts celebrating and commemorating 25 years of Wave Community Bank.
Hello and welcome to this, the final edition of Making Waves, our 25th anniversary celebratory commemoratory podcast series talking about all things credit union, community bank and indeed Wave Community Bank. I am joined on this, the final edition, by the CEO of Wave Community Bank, Anne Hickey. Anne, thanks for joining us. Can you just sort of go into a bit of detail about how everything started? Because originally we were called the East Sussex Credit Union, or weren't we actually something else before that?
Yes, it did. So in the late 1990s, there was an idea to start a credit union in East Brighton. There was three people that came together, so a local trading standards manager and a single mum from Whitehall, which is one of our poorer estates, that wanted to do something about loan sharks and sort of offer an alternative to loan sharks. And the third person was a local councillor who was working and wanted to do something about combating poverty in that part of the city. I started in late 1999 on a 3-month contract 25 years ago to help the steering group get through the registration, set up the credit union, open an office and get volunteers. So that was my role right at the very beginning.
And what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced early on, and kind of how did those moments shape the direction that Wave's gone into today?
Well, I think I think the two things I would say are still relevant now. I mean, one of them is getting the word out. It was trying to, and we are still trying to persuade the general public what a good idea community banks and credit unions are. And they always get called a very well kept secret. When people hear about them, they think about how brilliant they are, but they don't hear about them. So that was a challenge way back then. We used to do lots of face-to-face, attending fairs and fetes and leafleting. There's still a bit of that going on, but we also use digital means now to try and get the word out. Social media, we also work with partners and do projects with them to try and get people to hear about us and to find out what we're about and ultimately to join. I think the other challenge back then, and still is a challenge actually, is credit unions or community banks being too small. They have a lot of regulation that they have to meet a high standard of. And so in the early 2000s, the Central Brighton Credit Union Steering Group joined East Brighton. And then in 2008, we extended our area that's called a common bond to cover the whole of East Sussex as well as Brighton and Hove. And then in 2024, we merged with Kent Savers Credit Union, which opened up, a huge area for us. It tripled our potential membership. But I sort of think that there's so much regulation, and you're dealing with people's money, and people need to trust you, that you need a professional team and you need a professional board to run credit unions and community banks, and small ones have a problem being able to deliver that, I think.
So over the last 2.5 decades, how has Wave adapted to changes in community needs and the wider financial landscape, especially with the rise of digital banking?
Yeah, so just in terms of community needs, I mean, we've been through a pandemic in that time, and since then there's been a cost of living crisis and just generally rising prices, including cost of housing and rising debt. What we've tried to do over the years is adapt our products to work with partners and provide schemes for rent deposits, loans to help for applying for visas. We offer sort of family saver loans and debt consolidation loans to free up disposable income. Another thing that we've been really successful at is talking to local employers and getting payroll partners. We've now got over 30 employers who work with us where people save and borrow through their salaries. And, just to say that just because people are working doesn't mean that they're financially secure and don't need our products. We've got about over 600 members paying via payroll deduction, so from their salaries. And another thing that we've done with working people in one of our NHS trusts is to have a person on site that provides financial wellbeing support to to our members and potential members.
And are you able to narrow the last 25 years down to maybe one or even two moments that kind of really capture the impact that Waves had on a member, or indeed the wider community?
Well, yes, it's a long time to remember back over. Um, so I think in 2010, when we moved to our office in central Brighton, Polly Toynbee, a journalist from The Guardian, opened our new office, and there was a lot of press and there was discussion about financial resilience and things like that, and what what we would call then credit unions can do for people. And one of our members just very spontaneously stood up. He was then the UK's longest living person with AIDS. This is when AIDS was not something that you could live a very long life with. And he explained his condition. And then he said, the credit union saved my life. I wouldn't be here now if it weren't for them. And I thought that was a really powerful moment, actually, not just because of the press, but what that meant to him. So I've got another example where we gave a reasonably large loan to a hairdresser for his business. And I phoned him and told him that, and he burst into tears. And he said that we'd saved his business and his livelihood by believing in him when no one else would. And he went on to pay his loan very well. So those are the sorts of things that kind of make the job worthwhile.
And indeed, I know that if you talk to any member of the team, they will all have stories about members that they've had similar conversations. What have you personally learned, Anne, from the journey of building a community bank? And what advice would you give to someone who's maybe starting out in this credit union community bank space now?
Yeah, so I mean, after 25 years, I would say that patience is a virtue. um, I think when you're building a regulated financial service organisation that exists to serve its members, and those members are sometimes people who cannot get services elsewhere are inherently higher risk, it all takes time to build that service. Building a team as well, and I'm including the board in there, that are working to the same objectives and want the same success takes time. And also, what's also takes a long time is something that we also do, which is pushing and lobbying for change in our sector's regulation that hinder growth and make us uncompetitive. And, the wheels of regulation and law move very slowly, but they're certainly still worth pushing for. And I remember I went to a credit union conference in the United States about 8 years ago, where credit unions are much bigger than us. They're much more part of the usual financial landscape. And one of the people on the panel says it takes decades to build a credit union or community bank. So I kind of took that to heart.
Okay, final question, Anne. Looking ahead, what's your vision? I can see your eyebrows raised. What's your vision for the next 25 years? And what actually continues to drive your passion for what Wave tries to do?
So I think some of the things that will happen in the future are already happening. So there's a lot of consolidation in the sector. A lot of credit unions and community banks are coming together, really because of what I said. They they can get economies of scale. They can get more professional staff, boards. They can afford better systems, and I think that will continue. There will be fewer larger credit unions. I think the challenge will be that they are still able to keep their friendly approach that we're so good at. The government are also considering removing some restrictions on the areas that we can work in, which is called common bond. So I think once those restrictions are removed, there'll be more consolidation in the sector. I mean, further digitalisation is bound to happen. I think that AI, which we're all sort of starting to think about now, will be old hat by then. So I don't know what we'll be doing in 25 years, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm sort of hoping that the current Labour government's commitment to double the mutual sector will have an impact, a long-term impact on the growth of the sector. Again, helping us get the word out. Big challenge, money for advertising, awareness raising and maybe money for risk capital as well would be good. I think that I'd like to see that our sector has a higher membership per population as some other countries like Ireland and the US. We're still, very low penetration of the population of the UK. And on a personal level, I won't be the CEO of Wave Community Bank in 25 years, I can assure you of that. I expect to leave it as a thriving and growing organisation to somebody hopefully much younger who can take it on. But I think, I will always be a member of Wave Community Bank. And, in terms of what motivates me, I would say that if there's listeners out there who want to know what they can do, that, even in basic terms, just join your local community bank or credit union, become part of this movement where our members are our priority and where people are helping each other and improving each other's lives by what they're doing.
Well, Anne, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be part of the podcast. Thank you for extending that 3-month contract back in the late 90s. Much appreciated. Thank you for everything you do now. It's been great to chat to you.
Thank you, Phil. Good talking to you.
And that's about it, except to say thank you to you for listening. We've done 12 of these podcasts over the last few weeks. We hope you enjoy them. If you're not a member of the organisation, not a member of Wave Community Bank, we hope you consider joining us. If you are a member of Wave Community Bank already and you want to use these to potentially get friends and family and work colleagues involved, please do that as well. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for giving us your trust. And we hope to speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Making Waves is produced by and on behalf of Wave Community Bank. For more details, visit our website on www.wavecb.org.uk.